Hi, it's Dwyer, gamblersadvisory.com, dwyervip.com, on Roku, Dwyer Boxing and Sports News. Remember, the opinion you should follow should be your own. Just consider this video to be a second opinion from a complete stranger online. First, let me give away an overwhelming favorite today. I think they win their game easily. It's in the WNBA. I find this league to be one of the better leagues to bet on. Right? The good teams are really good. The bad teams, sorry Los Angeles Sparks, are really bad. Tonight, I believe the casino's giving away money, but it's going to be expensive. Right? I like the Minnesota Lynx on a money line over the Seattle Storm. Right? Again, that's the Minnesota Lynx on a money line over the Seattle Storm. You're going to pay huge odds, right? Minus 1,000, minus 1,100 type odds. But at the same time, if you can get, in my opinion, 9 or 10% overnight, why not take it? The Lynx are a dominant team. They are one of the top defensive teams in the WNBA. Keep track of that. Let's shift gears. Baseball. In an earlier video, I said that you need to fade the St. Louis Cardinals and understand the Cardinals are doing very well right now. They're kicking butt. There's no question about it. But this hacking scandal, where they hacked into the Houston Astro database, right, where the Department of Justice is now involved in the case, I believe that's going to weaken the franchise. Eventually, that's going to spill out onto the field. I know it sounds ridiculous. Let's just say I've seen it too many times. Well, now St. Louis has followed through and they've fired their director of scouting, Chris Correa. Right? He's fired. He admits, believe it or not, this is the scouting director for the Cardinals. He admits that he authorized the hacking of the Houston Astro database. Now, apparently he has a contentious relationship with Houston Astro honcho Jeff Luhnow, right? Now, full disclosure, I don't want people investigating me then feeling I have a hidden agenda. I know Jeff's brother, right? But understand, I don't know Jeff. Understand, I don't believe I've ever spoken to Jeff, apart from maybe saying hello, right? Just understand, Correa's behavior is so outrageous that I think what you want to do is you want to fade the Cardinals with the understanding that later you might have to revisit them if they do make it to the World Series, right? But I recommend that you fade the Cardinals in baseball. Let's talk basketball. A lot's going on. If you're a futures bettor in the National Basketball Association, now is the time to make bets. And understand, you really don't know where some of these free agents, namely LaMarcus Aldridge, is going to end up. You really don't. So what you're really betting on are the front offices, the owners, the GMs, right? Now let's talk about things you need to think about. First, with the Golden State Warriors, the guy who finished second in Defensive Player of the Year voting, right? The guy who, with the Warriors down 2-1, moved into the paint and shut down arguably the league's best center, Marc Gasol. Right? Draymond Green is coming back according to reports. Folks, that's huge. The team knows how valuable he is. He's going to receive more than $80 million over 5 years, according to reports. If you're a Warrior fan and if you realize the secret sauce to that team are guys like Draymond Green, right? Andre Iguodala, Sean Livingston. If you understand their value to the team, then you realize that this signing was essential. The Warriors are viable for next year. Now keep in mind, this is with a long-term focus, right? Obviously, if Steph Curry and Klay Thompson get in a car accident, right? If anyone gets a torn ACL or is suspended for the year and is unavailable, then things could be different. But understand, Draymond Green is coming back to Golden State. He is a key member of that team. Right? To quote Bay Area rapper E40, when it comes to Draymond Green, yep, right? He belongs with the Warriors. The Warriors are much stronger with him. They have him back. He's not leaving through free agency. Let's talk about another team that's going to be on a mission next year. Right? I believe this team needs to be one of your foundational futures plays. In the Eastern Conference, now understand, the Western Conference, you got a lot of heavyweights fighting it out. You have many of the best teams in basketball in the Western Conference. You don't quite know what's going to happen in the West. I think we know what's going to happen in the East. The team that came out of the East this past season, the team that was up 2-1 on the Golden State Warriors, despite losing Kyrie Irving, that team, the Cleveland Cavaliers, guess what, folks? Kevin Love is coming back. Right? Love is back. Major three-point shooter. Different dynamic. Right? Love is coming back. Guess what? Iman Shumpert is coming back. According to reports, he's about to sign a deal for $10 million a year. Now, I'll agree the biggest name has the initials LJ. Right? But according to reports, LeBron James is coming back. Right? I really feel that if you bet NBA futures, this team, more than any other in the National Basketball Association, and that includes the defending champion Golden State Warriors, right? This team, the Cleveland Cavaliers, needs to be in your futures portfolio. Think about the East for a second. Right? Tom Thibodeau is out in Chicago. Chicago's going to have a new coach. Let me say this, Paul Pierce, right? The same Paul Pierce who sealed some of these Wizard wins in the playoffs. That Paul Pierce who said game before he ends one game and who then said season in another game where he almost ended the other team's season. Paul Pierce is gone, folks. He's going to be with Doc Rivers and the Clippers. Right? Because, of course, for those who know, Paul Pierce is from L.A. Right? Paul Pierce is the guy who erased Reggie Theus's name, if you're a real old-timer, out of the high school record books in that part of the land. Right? Paul Pierce is leaving the Wizards. So you have Chicago with a new coach. You have Paul Pierce leaving the Wizards. How comfortable are you really with the Atlanta Hawks? Right? My point to you is this. Cleveland's going to be on a mission, of course. When we're talking long-term, everything is subject to a health warning, right? We're assuming all of these guys are going to be healthy, right? I'm assuming Varejao actually is able to play. I'm assuming Kyrie Irving comes back from his injury. I'm assuming Kevin Love's shoulder isn't permanently damaged, right? If this team comes back with force, with this hungry city, who's been waiting for a title for more than half a century, backing them, I'm telling you the Cavaliers need to be in your long-term betting portfolio. Now let's stay out west for a second. A team that I picked to win it last year. Let's be blunt. I picked this team to win it. They didn't do it, right? Because they ran into a very good coach, Doc Rivers, and a guy on one leg who just decided to take over Game 7 in Chris Paul. But the San Antonio Spurs, the team that won the title the year before this last year, they're getting back Tim Duncan. Think about that. By the way, you heard me talk about Draymond Green, who finished second in Defensive Player of the Year. The guy who finished first, Kawhi Leonard, is coming back for the Spurs. right? If you're a fantasy basketball player and you want threes, you know all about Danny Green. He's coming back. Did you know LaMarcus Aldridge is being actively pursued by the San Antonio Spurs? Right? If the Spurs get Aldridge, I would say game, set, and match. Right? I believe if that team's healthy, they're representing the Western Conference. Right? My point is this. Even if they don't get Aldridge, the San Antonio Spurs need to be part of your betting portfolio. These guys know how to get it done. I'm sure LeBron James and Ray Allen and Chris Bosh and Dwayne Wade all privately know 3 years ago they should have lost that finals. Right? Spurs are up in Game 6. They try to give it away. Even with all of their shenanigans, they had a 3-point lead with seconds draining on the clock. Ray Allen doesn't even have time to look down. He hits the 3 that gets that game to overtime. Understand, the Spurs could easily have had back-to-back championships in 2 of the last 3 years. Right? So my point is this. The big question was, is Tim Duncan coming back? The answer is yes. Right? Now you have to figure out, can LaMarcus Aldridge look at this team and make the decision to sign elsewhere? It's going to be tough. Championship coach, championship roster. Right? Aldridge wants to win. I believe he's from Texas. Right? San Antonio needs to be in your roster. Okay, let's shift gears a little bit. Let's move to boxing. You know, one of the things I always look at in thinking about fighters is their relationship with their trainer. Right? You knew Jesse Vargas was in trouble against Tim Bradley because Tim Bradley has been with Joel Diaz forever. And Jesse Vargas hooked up with Eric Morales literally the month before his fight against Timothy Bradley. Right? You knew, it's like your relationship with the girl you just met can't really compare to your relationship with that ex-girlfriend who you went out with for 4 or 5 years. Right? Your ex knows you, even though you had problems, right? Even though it didn't work out, even though she got on your nerves, even though you hit the off-ramp, your ex knows you. The girl at the club you met 4 weeks ago really doesn't know you, right? That matters in a boxing match. Where you come back to the corner, you got a welt on your head, you're semi-conscious and stuff like that. You need someone in your corner who knows you. Right? Well, let's talk about Jhonny Gonzalez. You know what? He's been with one of the best trainers in the sport of boxing for 7 years, Nacho. Right? Now we have news. After Jhonny Gonzalez got beaten, and that's important, by Gary Russell, a fight I picked Jhonny Gonzalez in. I was surprised how bad Jhonny looked. By the way, Jhonny looked bad. Jhonny got his butt kicked in that fight. Right? Gary Russell is landing flush shots. Johnny's hitting the canvas awkwardly in that fight. Now we hear that he's splitting with Nacho Beristain, his trainer of the last 7 years. Now let me just say this. Sometimes when you hear about these splits, especially from these superstar trainers, sometimes the trainer is saying things the fighter doesn't want to hear. Right? Sometimes the trainer is saying things like, hey, son, you've slowed down. The things that used to work, they're not working now. Right? Put another way, you're not as good as you used to be. Maybe you want to think about your plan B and your plan C in life at this stage, because Father Time catches up to all of us and he seems to have caught up to you. You know, superstar trainer Freddie Roach tells a story about how he was a fighter. Freddie Roach was a damn good fighter. He used to be on TV. And he had a Hall of Fame trainer, Eddie Futch. And Eddie Futch had that conversation with him, said, hey, you're getting hit too much. Your reflexes aren't there. You've topped out as a fighter. You shouldn't push this further. If you do, you'll be putting your health at risk. And Freddie Roach said, man, forget this. I didn't become a fighter to have some older guy tell me that, you know, it's over for me. I feel good. You know, maybe this fight wasn't my best fight, but, you know, that's because a few things happened in the fight. If I had just done things differently, I would have looked better. You know, my skills aren't in decline. They're in ascent. I know more now than I knew before and stuff like that. So Freddie Roach moved on. He left Eddie Futch just like Jhonny Gonzalez is leaving Nacho Beristain. And you know what happened? Looking back, Freddie now realizes that he should have quit when Eddie Futch told him to. Right? Freddie realizes that he got hit with a lot of shots after he left Eddie Futch. That he wasn't quite the same fighter after he left Eddie Futch. Now, Jhonny Gonzalez, I don't know what the story is. Right? Sometimes the fighter decides, you know what, I've outgrown this trainer. Right? The problem's this. As a gambler, we're not going to know what the truth is. Right? These guys aren't going to sit down and be candid with us because they have professional respect for each other and there's going to be a cover story. Right? Nacho wants Jhonny to be happy. Jhonny wants Nacho to be happy. They're going to try to protect each other's reputations. My point to you is simply this. You need to contemplate the possibility, as a gambler with imperfect information, that Nacho Beristain, right, the same trainer who is training Juan Manuel Marquez, right, that Nacho Beristain may have looked at Jhonny Gonzalez's films, may have looked, been in the corner for Johnny's last fight, knew what Jhonny was trying to do, right, because Nacho was part of his training camp, saw that Jhonny might not have been able to have accomplished that as well as he did when he was in his prime. Nacho may have reached the conclusion that Jhonny Gonzalez is past his prime. Right? You need to consider that in analyzing future Jhonny Gonzalez fights. Let me say this too. Gonzalez is one of my favorite fighters. I believe he's your prototypical boxer puncher, right? But at the same time, Jhonny is in his 30s. Jhonny has had a lot of fights. Jhonny did look very bad against Gary Russell. Let me say this too. Jhonny is returning to his father. His father's going to be his trainer, right? Jhonny is quoted as saying, hey, my father believes I can be champion again. Right? I'll say this. That's an interesting quote because it doesn't say Nacho believes Jhonny can be champion again. Right? Also, there's a reason why, years ago, Jhonny left his father to sign up with Nacho Beristain. So whenever you see an older fighter who has had a long time, multi-year relationship with an excellent trainer, whenever you hear that that relationship has curiously split after a loss where the fighter didn't look great, the red flag should be out. Think Freddie Roach, Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. after the Sergio Martinez fight. Right? You should be having red flags and analyzing Jhonny Gonzalez fights going forward. It's possible that some people close to Jhonny believe he's now past his prime and should consider moving on from the sport. Anyway, that's how I see it. Let me hear from you. Leave your comments for me here online. Visit us at gamblersadvisory.com. Thanks for stopping by.